Hey, you're listening to Girls Who Gab with Habs and Muffy as we dissect the two little or big words, meal planning. Two words that bring instant stress to most women, whether you're feeding a family, a partner, or just trying to eat something besides cheese and crackers at 9 p.m. It's one of those invisible tasks that feels small but takes up major mental space. Some of us plan, some avoid it completely, and others wrestle with picky eaters or the dreaded "I don't care, whatever you want" response. In this episode, we're calling it out, the pressure, the burnout, and why it's okay if your plan starts in the freezer aisle. Meal planning. Enough said, meal planning. Maybe we should just stop our podcast here. It's the ugly word and the bane of my existence. Meal planning. I remember growing up, my mom planning out the week and always wanting to know or ask if we had any ideas. And we were always like, whatever. And she just came up with stuff, but she hated it. And she got bored of it because how much creativity can you have when you're serving your family night after night after night after night? Oh, so I remember when I was a little bit older, getting up in the morning and coming down for breakfast and a cup of coffee. I think I might have been in college by this point, and I was on the vineyard. And my mom asking, if it was okay that we were having X, Y, and Z for dinner. And I'm like, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. I have no idea what I want for dinner. But yeah, sure, whatever. I think meal planning is really tough for women, especially. I mean, maybe men, and maybe a man could speak to it, but I think meal planning is the bane of every woman's existence to some degree, right? Whether or not you have a family or not. You know, we didn't really ever meal plan, A and I. I mean, of course, when we were just a couple and childless, I mean, we would, we'd get home from work, we'd work out, and then we'd figure out what we wanted for dinner. And that's how it worked. And to this day, we're not like that anymore, but we do grocery shop every day. I always say that we're like European shoppers. I try to do a week's worth of groceries one time, like planning out the meal, buying all the ingredients, and then, they were ready for me to make dinner each night. Well, what happened was by like the second or third night, nobody wanted to eat the next meal. They either ate leftovers or everybody wanted to do what we call on your own night, or OYO. And so it's like by the end of the week, a lot of those groceries, they just went to waste. And so A and I always debate this money thing and grocery shopping and how much we spend. But if I'm going to go and shop for the week, but then we're not going to eat what I shopped for and what I planned out from a meal standpoint, then that's a waste, in my opinion. When my girls were younger, in some respects, it was a lot easier because A and I just made dinner for ourselves, and the girls were pretty much the basics. I mean, Jay is a big mac and cheeser, and T, when she was younger, it was like a pizza, like a one-person, one-kid pizza, thin crust, not a lot of sauce or cheese. And that's what she ate a lot. I mean, granted, she ate other things throughout the day. She had fruit, she had vegetables, stuff like that. But it was much more simple. So I've said this a few times, I really did not cook, nor did I learn how to cook until my 50s. And so meal planning as a concept didn't even come into my wheelhouse until my early 50s. I have to say, when COVID hit, I started doing a lot of HelloFresh, and I credit HelloFresh to teaching me how to cook. That and the internet, right? It's so much easier to just look at a recipe and then say, oh, I don't know what that means, and Google it. Oh, that's what that is. Oh, a green onion is a scallion? Who knew? I did not. And doing HelloFresh was good for the whole family because the girls really did get into cooking. They would help me. They would help me to pick out what we were getting. And we usually just did about 2 or 3 meals. And it was great because they sent you exactly what you needed in terms of ingredients. So you didn't have to buy a big jar of this or that and then never use it again. And then, it was enough for 4 people. And for the most part, everybody liked the meals. Now, I do have a friend who didn't like it because it's very wasteful in terms of everything comes in little packages, but it really worked for the time that we used it. I've since gone on to be a lot more adventurous, I would say. Um, and we've gotten into, we've definitely had our ups and downs, and it's been quite a learning curve. It's funny that my learning curve, again, is coming in my early 50s as my girls are preteen and teenager. But we have evolved, I have to say that. And we are continuing to evolve, which is a good thing. I am finding my groove a little bit, although it's still a little bit rocky from time to time. But I used to plan, meals for Monday through Thursday. And I'd like to say that I must have grown up in the Great Depression in another life because my eyes are always so much bigger than my stomach, and I never want there to be a lack of food. And I don't know where that comes from because it's not like my mom didn't have, enough food for us. She always had enough food for us. Now, my mother-in-law, she never makes enough food for everybody, but it's not like we eat with her a lot. So sometimes I tend to, a lot of times, my family will admit, I double up on the recipe. And then I have this huge amount that we never end up eating. One time I made this casserole that ended up being 2 casseroles, and I gave it to one of T's friends' family, who's a family of 5, and they were so grateful to have this huge thing of casserole. That's how crazy I can get sometimes. So my family does get a little bit frustrated with me. But at the same time, I don't know. The meal planning is such a struggle in my household because A's always like, don't cook you don't need to be dramatic. Let's just have, some chicken cooked on the grill, like with no spices, no sautés, nothing, and a vegetable, and that's it. Or let's just make it simple. But, you know, you can't night after night have a piece of chicken or a pizza bagel. You can. But I think the girls are at a point where they want more. They want more variety. Definitely T more so than J. So we kind of have this yin and yang thing going on in our household where the girls want to know what is for dinner. They don't always like it. Well, especially J. And then A is always changing the meal. So because he thinks, either we already have too many leftovers, we don't need to, use up all the ingredients or go back to the store. I've given up on doing a weekly grocery shopping, to be honest, because it doesn't work, like I said. Now, A will sometimes go on Sundays and what he calls, quote unquote, stocks up. What does that mean? That means what kind of snacks and things does he want to eat? It's not that he's being selfish. He's just not, he doesn't quite, I don't want to say he doesn't think of anybody else, but he's just like, I think what translates is like what he wants to eat and everybody else will be fine with it. And it's great, right? But what ends up happening, like one time he came home and, bought a bunch of stuff, snacks mostly, and a few staples like maybe some ground meat, maybe some pasta, maybe a jar of sauce. Uh, and then the girls were like, well, what are we having for dinner? And, I was like, oh, well, I'll go out and get blah, blah, blah. So I did. And then I came back and A was like, why'd you go to the grocery store? I just went and bought stuff. And we were all like, no, these are all just snacks for you. So kind of funny. I have gotten to the point where now, I pick 2 to 3 nights at tops at most, and I plan some kind of meal. And then I grocery shop each day for the food that we're gonna be having that night. That kind of work. I say kind of because I don't know, sometimes things change and, I think that's where we're trying to become more flexible, or at least I am, that, hey, if it's already 8 o'clock and I'm just starting to make dinner, maybe we should just all eat whatever is in the house or do like an on your own or OYO. So I've conceded to that because I do kind of start late. We are late dinner eaters, unlike most people. So that's unique to us. Uh, but it's still hard. Lately I've been trying a lot of different recipes and I don't know if that's good. I'm kind of starting to second guess it or rethink because I'm trying all these things that I think I can make and then they don't end up really working out and they don't taste that great. So I think I'm going to just go back to kind of oldie but goodies, like whatever is popular that we've had and try to rotate it. I mean, it is kind of fun to try new things and have something different, but I honestly have to say, after I've cooked all the food, I'm actually not that hungry and I don't even want to eat it. So it's this weird thing in my life in particular, I would say. I don't fall naturally into the whole homemaking thing, I don't feel. I'm not like a natural when it comes to, okay, let's plan out everything. Let's then go to the store and get it. And I can make it really quickly. I'm a slow cooker. I don't cook fast. Even if it's super easy and the recipes are like, oh, it's 10 minutes prep, 20 minutes cook. Okay, that's usually a lie. But even then, just double it for me. So I'm not really very realistic. I just don't have that natural talent. And I do it, but like I'm not one of those people that watches cooking shows. I really couldn't care less. But I have grown into, you know, cooking. Do I love it? Meh. I mean, sometimes it's meditative because I'm just in my kitchen by myself and I'm making the meal and nobody's bothering me and I can just watch the news and that's nice. But I don't know, it kind of stressful too. But I don't know what the alternative is because we don't eat out a lot. I mean, I think A would beg to differ, but we don't. Um, and we don't go out to eat a lot either. So, even though I would love to. I mean, I would go out to eat all the time if I had a choice. Not to say that, but I guess if I had unlimited funds, that's probably what I would do. Or you know what I would do? I would actually hire a cook and just say, "These are the things I'm thinking of for the week, just go do it." Meaning go to the store, get all the groceries, and then make it and put it away, and we'll eat it when we want. The whole meal planning and cooking, it's kind of like a roller coaster for me. Sometimes I'm really into it and I'm all jazzed. I get organized. I plan out meals for the week, typically on Saturday and Sunday. And then we have a little whiteboard that we put on our refrigerator and I write it in and the girls can see what we're having. And then, I end up making most of it. Other times I'm like, I just don't feel like it. Like this past Thursday night, Jay and I just got Chinese takeout, and it was lovely, I have to say. So I had planned on making, it's kind of a joke, but this butt pasta, it actually a mistake. One time I wrote it, I forget it now what it stands for, but the girls were like, what's butt pasta? And I was like, oh no, again, I forget what it is, but I just didn't feel like making it. And A was out to dinner with a friend. And T was also out, so yeah. But then sometimes I do enjoy doing it, My favorite show, The Today Show, just came out with a cookbook. And in the cookbook, there's a bunch of recipes. I've only tried 2 so far, to be honest. But one is Dylan Dreyer's meatballs. Now, the meatballs itself, they were very yummy. They didn't come together the way I thought or expected, and I couldn't really put them into round balls. Um, but Dylan had said she's really picky about her meatballs, and so am I. And so I made them. They were super yummy. The other, I would say, so far and probably across the cookbook, is Craig Melvin's mom's mac and cheese. Yum, yum, yum. In the cookbook, the recipe, and Craig even says, like, this is not a healthy meal. It's full of several different kinds of cheese, including Velveeta cheese, which I guess is not really a cheese, but oh my God, it is so good. So I highly recommend getting the book. Page 99 is where you can find Craig Melvin's mom's yummy mac and cheese, and my family loved it. So there are times when I enjoy the meal planning and prepping and cooking, but then there are other times where I wish it just was never a part of my life. And I think it can be a source of frustration for many women. And I think a lot of women would agree with me. What do you think, Muffy? Is it a source of frustration, or could you really care less?
Hi, Habs. It's Muffy. What a topic, meal planning. I have to say, I'm probably one of the very few women who really doesn't care. And your first part really got me thinking about things and about myself and about kind of food and what food represents to me in general. And now remember, I do not have children. So I think this relating to food, you know, probably gets underscored by the fact that I don't have kids. If I don't have kids, then I might have had to do something else. But my relationship to food is just not very strong. I am not a person who really thinks about food very much, who watches kind of what's going on with food, who, is motivated by food. I just have never been that type of person in general. And so, how that has translated in my adult life is exactly that. If it's not front and center, it's just off the radar. That's not to say I'm not eating. That's not to say that I don't enjoy a good meal or planning a good meal. It's not to say that I don't appreciate food or interesting different foods. It's just my motivation to do anything around food is seriously lacking. I mean, RK went away for 2 weeks last year to do work in another city. And oh my God, he came back and he opened the refrigerator and he looked at me and he's like, "Did you even open this refrigerator while I was gone?" And I'm like, "I'm not sure I did." He's like, "Oh my God. I mean, I should have gone out and gotten the Lactaid and a juice and like a loaf of bread just to provision him up a little bit to start him up." But like, I just was completely lost on me. And I think that's just how I am with food. I think had I had children, I would have had to like do the meal planning on the regular because like most women, I probably would have slotted into that role. Um, but I just am naturally not that motivated by it. Now, that being said, I've had different times in my life relating to food and meal planning. Um I mean, when we went off to college, I think I had a meal plan for the dorms. I could go and eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't think I really went much for breakfast. Might have had lunch, but I mean, I never really ate. Yeah, I know you are like the same way. We like that taco salad in the that other commons area to eat. I wasn't really that big of a fan of like whatever they were serving up in the cafeteria. I guess I ate dinner. Um, but just like I pick through things. Like I'm a picker. I just kind of pick through, eat a little of this, eat a little bit of that, and that's it. I'm just like on to the next thing. Um, then I got out of college and I went to DC and I lived with other people. Some people who were cooking, and then they would offer it to me and I would eat. Or, I had one roommate who always did make his own little meal. he would make just like a little like meat, veggie, potato, and like have like a nice little proper meal. And I would just come out and like put a baked potato, like a potato in the microwaves and like flop some like butter and sour cream on it. And that's what I made for dinner. And he's like, "That's all you're gonna eat?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's good. That's enough." And they'd be like, "Really?" Like, or I just put think about macaroni and cheese. I just put like Stouffer's macaroni and cheese in the microwave and make that and just eat that one thing. And I just get by that way. I just didn't eat a lot. I didn't take a lot for lunch. I didn't really have proper lunches. Gosh, back in the day in my 20s, I remember for lunch, I was working at this law firm and a friend of mine would be like, "Let's go to McDonald's and get the chicken McNuggets." And we were like totally into chicken McNuggets. I mean, I would never eat a chicken McNugget today, but back then, and she's like, "Oh, let's, get the hot mustard sauce." And I'm like, "Right." So one of us would run up there and get the barbecue and a hot mustard. And then one day, the McDonald's told her or me they don't have hot mustard. It's honey mustard. We're like, "What? You've always had hot mustard." They're like, "No, it's always been honey mustard." We came back, we're like, "Honey mustard?" And I don't know if that mustard was just spicy and we thought it was hot or honey. But like I would eat that for like my lunch, just like this little, and then breakfast hardly anything. I mean, God, in my 20s, I didn't eat anything. So I did not do a good job of meal planning at all. I just didn't. And I could eat pretty much just like a meal, like one dinner, and then just like the next night, not eat very much the next night. Like I just was fair. Like I said, I just was not motivated by food. Then I got together with RK and we set up house. We did not have kids, but it became clear to me that like cooking was kind of important to him or having some sort of food. I mean, he's coming out of Southeast Asia from a country, Malaysia, which is like just a country motivated by food. And just he ate very, very well. I mean, eventually he went down to Australia for boarding school and it was like the worst food ever. Um, so he's had all sorts of different foods, but he does eat, and he eats regularly, and I was sort of like, not. I mean, I remember when we first got together, we were living together, and he went to the cupboard, he's like, "Where are the cookies?" And I'm like I'd eaten like 5 or 6 of them, I was like, "Oh, sorry." He's like, "Oh, you are like Cookie Monster," and I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "I just ate them," and he's like, "Is that your dinner?" I'm like, "I think so. I don't think I'm hungry." I mean, I'm like one of the worst people to think about food and motivation toward eating a well-balanced diet. Yeah, I don't know why this is. That being said, I was when I was in my 20s before I met RK, like, I remember the holidays and, I mean, you're talking about, your mother and how she planned things, and my mother hated to cook. I mean, she just hated it, and she would just decide, I guess, in any given day what she was gonna do, because she did have 3 kids and had to put something on the table. We lived in small towns, there wasn't a lot of money, so she was definitely gonna cook something. But only in retrospect do I realize, like, it was Stouffer's lasagna. It was, like, stuffed green peppers, which I couldn't stand with some rice in it. There was always a salad. There was always, like, maybe some garlic bread or something. She made a pasta, and her pasta was just spaghetti with ragu sauce. She made a meatloaf with tomato sauce on, which really made me wanna puke as I got older. She would make roast beefs for Sunday dinner that just looked god awful cut up, but there was always the salad and maybe a potato, another vegetable. I mean, it was just I mean, I realized, like, we always had food on the table, but it was just whatever, the easiest, simplest thing, like, she'd start cooking it at, like, 4:45. It was on the table at 5:25. We ate at 5:30 the moment my father walked in. By 5:45, she was cooking the dishes, and by 6, she was sitting down the news, and it was over. That was our dinner, like, and dessert, if we got dessert, was basically just like, remember that fruit cocktail you could open, and there was, like, one little half cherry in the whole fruit cocktail? My younger brother and I would fight over that piece of cherry. Just oh god, I mean, like, it was just awful. I mean, it was just she just didn't like it. Now my grandmother, she, I think, did do meal planning. She's of the Depression era. She was a meal planner. She made the most amazing food all from scratch. We weren't with her every minute, but she did have a plan, and it was amazing. Her banana cream pie, her lemon cream pie, her stews, her baked beans, her potato salad. I was just incredible. Everything fresh and homemade. So I think I have a little bit of my grandmother in me. I know I don't make a good case for myself so far, but around the holidays, I started getting sick of Christmas Eve meal being spaghetti with ragu sauce because my mother wanted to get to church. And so she just wanted something real easy. And I was like, well, this isn't very nice. So I ended up doing this amazing meal cooked with my grandmother. Um, which was prime rib and popovers and a sweet potato souffle and it's just wonderful, wonderful traditional Christmas Eve dinner. And then I also wanted to do a morning Christmas morning kind of like brunch thing or breakfast because all they did was like go to the Dunkin' Donuts, buy a dozen donuts, like there's breakfast before you open your presents. And then Christmas Day was just like a repeat of Thanksgiving, which they still did, but I hadn't envisioned like wanting to plan a meal for my family. And I did do that, and I am capable of doing that. Another time that I really was meal planning was after I lost my business, my kids' party planning business, which was just really tough on me. I just started saying, look, I've got to live in my present and call it good. And part of calling it good was cooking. I knew that was gonna really please RK. It would gave me something to really ground in my day and call the day good, and I made all sorts of amazing things. I'll never forget one time RK came home and he sat down and I had bought this very, very expensive, extravagant duck. It was like a Wednesday night, and I made it with this cherry sauce. I don't know where I got this recipe. And he just sat down and like, "Oh, we're gonna have some duck tonight." And he's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so he bit into that and he's like, "Oh my god." He's like, "This is incredible." And here it was like just a regular Wednesday night. But I did all sorts of things. I fried chicken, I made French fries, oh my god, I made so many different things. I am definitely capable of cooking and cooking on the regular, but I like to do that when I have time and I'm relaxed and I can think about it. For me, my go-to cookbook, when I was living in Seattle and I had more time, we had a more of a regular schedule, I think I gave you a copy called Real Simple. I felt like they were tasty recipes that were pretty much done in 30 minutes. Wow, I've used and used and used that cookbook. So I can plan meals. I can make it a priority. And like usually I would just go to the store once a week and pick out, 2 or 3 meals to make. I would never make more than 2 or 3 meals because RK and Evely would buy some Southeast Asian cuisine or something, or we'd be going out to dinner or something. So like it was never more than 2 or 3 meals because there was always leftovers and he really didn't want to waste food. So, you know, I can do it. I did do it. Um, but ever since moving to this New York City area with him pursuing the stand-up comedy and leaving around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, it's just me. So I'm back to like, doesn't really matter. I'll get a bag salad and add some anchovies and olives and some other things and some croutons. That's dinner. I'll just do a little pasta for myself. I love butter chicken. I'll order this butter chicken from my favorite Indian restaurant. Like, this is what I eat every week. I do nothing else. Yeah, I'll go out to eat. I enjoy going out to eat all sorts of things. Less so these days for some reason. I'm just sort of more about just eating in and not doing much with food outside. Um, but I'm not, I just, whether, no matter if it's eating out or eating in, I'm just not that motivated by it. I can't say it any other way than that. And I was talking to RK and was talking about meal planning and like going to the store. And he brought up when he lived in, or I was having a conversation with him and his cousin actually recently. And they were talking about meal planning back in Malaysia and their parents and mothers. And like, oh yeah, meal planning was whatever was like fresh at the market. And RK said, oh God, he's like, you would go to the market and there'd just be like, here's the fisherman with the fish still flapping. And you just pick out the one you wanted flapping and it would just kind of die there. Or the fisherman would like cut his throat, it would die. And as you take that home, you gut it, you debone it, and then you'd have your really freshest fish. They also said that about chicken. They would just go and pick out their chicken. The guy would just clip off the neck right there, give you the chicken, and you go home and have the person working for you, because they often had help, take the feathers off and all the things, and, like, that was your fresh chicken that night. I mean, it was just like that's how they planned their meal, and they put their special curry spices and sauces together, and they had their special things, it was fresh, and it was fresh in the moment. They just went to the market, they saw what was there, a few veggies, this or that, and I was just laughing because, like, that is, like, in the moment meal planning, and they were like, "Yeah, there wasn't really anything to keep it, fresh or anything. You'd have to eat that chicken that day, you'd have to eat that fish, you just come right home and you're into making it." And it's the most amazing food, so I just wonder about, like, being in the moment. I know you European shop, and so you're just in the moment, "This is what I'm gonna make, this is what's fresh, this is what's at the market." And that's kinda what they did in Malaysia, and he said it was just delicious, and it was just real fresh. I remember being in India one time and we wanted these lobsters. We were on the beach somewhere. Like, "Oh, yeah, pick out your lobster." And we were like, "What?" And they were, like, crawling around. We're like, "Okay, so there are lobsters." It was India's not that on time. You have Indian Standard Time. And so, like, 3 hours later, we get the most beautiful lobster served us. We just picked it out. It was just, like, fresh right there. I kinda like that type of eating, just, like, in the moment, fresh, pick it. Someone's making it. Maybe I'm gonna make it, probably not. There you go. I don't know what you think about that type of meal planning, Habs.
Wow, Muffy, there's so much to unpack here with like the two little words, meal planning. I mean, you talk a lot about like your relationship to food or your lack of motivation by food. And you said it several times. So I find that very interesting. Not motivated by food. What does that mean exactly? Like I know, and I'm going to challenge you here a little bit, only a little bit. And so go with me on this one, but you do love to try new restaurants and go out to different restaurants when you're planning a trip. You're always like looking at making reservations so that you have a nice place to go and a nice meal to eat, and you do comment on it. And I know when you were on Facebook, you used to take a lot of pictures of food and post them. So I wonder if it's less about them being motivated by food, but you're motivated by the experience. I don't know. I just had to like throw that out there. I don't think, well, again, I'm not sure what it means to be motivated by food. I don't like to eat food just to eat food. If I'm not gonna like have a meal or I don't really snack. I don't like to snack. I never have. I know it would be better for me because I have a lot of like digesting of food. I won't go into that because it's just not that pleasant to talk about. But I know it would be better for me if I had a lot of small meals, but I don't really like to eat a lot. I mean, like many times. I too don't eat breakfast. I'm usually not hungry when I wake up. And my system just isn't ready to like have food. Again, maybe I know many nutritionists and other health experts would challenge me on that, but I don't think I'm going to change. So I do love breakfast food. I do. I love eggs. I love French toast, although I don't eat it very much. I love a good frittata or breakfast casserole, but like you can eat those at dinner time. And some of the best meal plans are breakfast for dinner, right? At least I think so. But I don't, so I mean, sometimes I easily go 12 hours without having any food. I'm much more of a liquids person. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I can drink a lot of water. I can drink a lot of coffee. I can drink a lot of wine. But so I'm much more motivated by the liquids and the food. But if I'm gonna eat, it's gotta be something I want to eat. And I mean, otherwise, I'm just not gonna eat. Some people can just eat food, whatever is there, but I have to be like in the mood for something. And if I'm not, I'm just turned off. It's weird. I know. The other weird thing about me is I don't like to share food. My friends know this well. I've gotten much better since I've had a husband and kids. I do sometimes share, but I prefer not to go somewhere where it's family style and you have to share food. I despise it. And you'd want to know why? Because I feel guilty if I take some of the food and I want other people to have the food first. So then I don't end up eating. Whereas if I order something for myself, I know it's what I wanted and I can eat it and I don't have to worry about anybody else. I know it is strange. It's really strange, but that is just how I am. Yes, I have fond memories of that taco salad from school. Oh, I miss that taco salad. It was so good. I don't think I ate in the cafeteria like for most of my college life. I think maybe that first semester, and then even after that, I definitely didn't even go to the cafeteria or get a meal plan in my sophomore year, for sure. I mean, my junior year, I was at the sorority house, so we always had food there. But yeah, it didn't really ever, that definitely did not motivate me. I do remember as like the first freshman, you know how everybody says like, "Oh, you get the first freshman 15." I actually did the opposite. I stopped eating because everybody else didn't wanna eat in front of each other, at least the people I was sitting with, so then I lost weight. I think I was under 100 pounds, like 95, maybe a little bit less, and I remember deciding like, I went to school thinking I wasn't gonna run, but then I decided to join the cross country team, so then I had to start eating, and so I would go down to the, vending machines. We were on the 2nd floor of the dorm, but they had the vending machines on the 1st floor, and it was the boys' floor, and I just remember just going and getting all this junk, and they were so amazed at how much I was eating. I mean, I had a great metabolism back then, besides the running. So I could always eat whatever I wanted, and just as much as, like, my husband. Now, not so much, which is kinda sad. Oh, it's interesting how food and the whole concept of meal planning changes over the course of your life. I mean, I've really never been into it, but yeah, because I have kids, I mean, like you said, your mom had to put some food on the table. I had to put food on the table. And like, I feel like I'm surrounded by women, and even some dads who cook these wonderful meals with all this variety. And, the doctors always say, oh, you need to have lots of different colors on your plate. Well, my plates don't have lots of different colors. We have usually one meal. It's one thing. We don't have like a side dish and then the main meal and vegetables. It's tends to be like everything in one. Uh, that's why the casserole thing really works well for me, even though, well, even I get sick of a casserole, but like you can put vegetables in it, you can put pasta, you can put cheese. I mean, who doesn't like cheese, right? Which brings me back to my memory of the advent calendar where you got me a cheese advent calendar. Ah, that was heavenly. I loved all that cheese, Muffy. Thank you for doing that. Although I have to say by the end, I was like, okay, this is a lot of cheese. Yeah, it's funny you talked about your mom and how her meals were very simple. It was like just get it done, put it, some stovetop or, frozen lasagna and, that's that. A is kind of the same way. He's very simple. He doesn't want it to be too complicated or I mean, he does like a lot. He likes pretty much anything. And he's like you. He could just eat a bag of cookies and like not even think twice about it. And that might be his meal, maybe not. Um, so I can't do that. But it's funny because his mom's like, she's like the type of person who like would put a meal on the table for her 3 sons and say, "Bon appetit." Or I mean, she makes very grandiose meals and they all eat it. yet he doesn't feel like maybe it's like a rebellion of like, oh, my mom always made it so complicated. Let's just go easy. I don't know. It's interesting to think about the generations of how we treat food, meal planning. I mean, I came into meal planning late in life, I have to say again, along with my cooking. Do I love it? No, I don't. Do I hate it? No. But I'm not, I'm not you're not motivated by food. I'm not motivated by cooking shows or recipes. I mean, like I said, now that I've discovered the internet when it comes to cooking, I know I'm late in the game. It is a little bit easier, a little bit more interesting, but I'm not like, like, wow, I can't wait to go do this. Yet my mom loved to cook and really, took pride in it. I mean, I take pride. I'm more like happy when something is successful because I always feel more often than not that what I what I deliver isn't going to be very good, which I know annoys T because she's like, I'm not always going to say it's great, but they do tend to highlight something when they do really like it. So it's more that I'm insecure that maybe it wasn't so great. Which is an interesting way to look at it. Yet my girls both like, T is very good at cooking. She just whipped up a bunch of banana muffins the other day because we had bananas that were going bad. I mean, I never would have done that. I still don't do that. I would look at the bad bananas and I'd probably throw them out. you know? Isn't that crazy? How we differ, like the generations? Maybe it's because, it's kind of a reaction to what we had or different had that we then react another way. I don't know. I'm curious to see as my girls get older, what kind of things motivate them when it comes to meal planning or food. But I think you're onto something, Muffy. Yeah, this daily meal planning or, getting that fresh fish or well, I don't think I could ever get a live chicken and watch its head cut off and then actually cook it and eat it. I'm just saying, I couldn't live in those days for sure. But yeah, there is something to like everyday meal planning. And it brings over a couple of interesting thoughts. Like, as we think about meal planning and food, like, what does meal planning and food look like around the world? You mentioned RK and his upbringing in Malaysia. And also, maybe it's not that we're so motivated by food, but we're more motivated by others. I don't know. What do you think about that, Muffy?
Hey, Habs, it's Muffy. Yeah, I mean, I think that is what it is. I'm not motivated by food, but I'm motivated by the experience of food. Whether that be trying a novel new recipe or going to an interesting restaurant, looking at a pretty dish, tasting it. I like the experience. If I'm going to have an experience that involves food, then that's fine. But I guess what I mean is like food itself and like feeding myself and like, okay, I've got to eat every day, 3 meals a day, and like get food into me so I have fuel. Yeah, that's lost on me. I'm not motivated by that. Um, I will eventually like need to eat and I will eat. But I'm not like food is not on my mind constantly about like what I'm gonna eat or I'm gonna get my next meal. How am I gonna make that? When am I gonna find time? It could just be anything. I could go to the into the cupboard and just like open a can of chickpeas, eat that, and that's my dinner. And that's just fine. I eat something, that's dinner. I'm just not motivated by just food itself. But yes, the elevated experience of food. And yeah, I like to take pictures of food that it's pretty that I ate to remember. That's definitely me. I don't do that anymore because I don't share. Well, sometimes I do on Instagram, but it just doesn't feel the same as it was on um, Facebook. So it's interesting you don't like to snack. I used to love to snack. and eat like little bits of this and that all day long. I hardly do that anymore. I just don't eat. I don't really snack anymore. I like to eat in the evening as early as possible. I mean, I swear, even like 4 or 5 o'clock for dinner's fine. And then I don't eat again until the next morning. Um, and the next morning, I'm up at 5 a.m. with RK because that's our dinner hour. And I usually have a biscuit with my tea. If I work out, then I'm eating granola and yogurt, or I'm eating toast, buttered toast, or something after that. And then I'm into my work day and I'm eating like spinach and artichoke dip with crackers or potato salad or some sort of sesame noodle salad, like little bites of that. And then for dinner, it's either like ready-made pasta, chopped salad, or butter chicken. That's basically what my go-tos, and a glass of wine. So, oh my God, you are so right about the sharing food. I do not like to share food. In Southeast Asia, people are always sharing food, right? It's family style. People love that. When we go to my husband's cousin's house, in the middle of her dining room table is a big glass circular thing that serves people. Like you put all your dishes on this big circular kind of serving platter, and you spin it around. And everyone gets to take. Um, so family dining, family sharing in that area of the world is really, really important. And it's just not me at all. I mean, we never shared in my family. Like you took what you took, you ate what you got on your own plate, and that was it. I have such a funny story though to share with you, which is one time, RK and I were visiting New York City actually. This is many, many years ago. We were newlyweds and we visited another couple who were really married too. And they were living in the city for just a year. They were from Australia. And I don't know, they took us out to a really cool fusion restaurant somewhere in the city. We were enjoying our meals and everything. And I swear to God, halfway through this meal, she went, D, which stands for his name, plate. And they would pick up their plates and exchange it. And then she would finish his plate and he finished her plate. And it was this whole thing with the clapping and the D. And then he just lifted, she was kind of the boss of their house. But he just his plate and like they just change it and then and like I remember our kid and I were just like stunned. And sometimes we just do that in restaurants just to be funny, like RK, you know, Buffy. No, I mean like I don't know about sharing. That really grossed me out, but it happens. But I'm definitely with you about sharing food. Yes, you love your cheese. You know, I think the who knew there were cheese advent calendars? But yeah, I think you got two different ones for me. And they were different types. And I know you really enjoyed them, but I'm sure by the end of the season, you were just like done. Yes, I definitely would have thrown away the bananas, but I know that like gross bananas make the best banana bread or banana muffins or whatever. I think that's great that her mind went to that. I think it's great when people don't waste food. I mean, one thing about the world is in America is there's so many people who are hungry, and it does weigh on me sometimes to think about how easy it is for me to buy whatever I want to buy as far as food. And that there are some people who there are not just some people, there are many, 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 many people in America who have nothing to eat, and who have many children who have nothing to eat. And, hunger is very, very real. So I think, it's interesting that, you brought up the Depression era, like wanting to have enough food or needing to have enough food because back in that era, people didn't have food or it was hard to come by. I do try and make sure we're not overbuying food at the store, that we're trying to, we don't make a lot so that we don't have a lot in the refrigerator and that basically whatever I've bought for the week, I'm going to be making and using. That kind of weighs, I know that definitely weighs heavy on RK. He hates any wasting of any food. And we still do waste food. We do, but it does weigh on me. And like at Christmas, when I make donations, I'm often thinking about food banks and food pantries. And there was one in New York when I first moved here. I forget the name of it, but it's all organic food. Like it's all like really good nutritious, organic, healthy food that they were doing a food bank by, and it was just so wildly popular. And so I wanted to, I don't want people who are hungry to just eat bad stuff because they're poor. So I really liked that model too of people having nutritious food and like good organic food, right? I mean, I don't know, it just sometimes weighs heavily about that on me. Good for tea for making something with those old bananas. Yeah, we had come back from a little weekend getaway and I saw RK pull out some chicken from the freezer and I was like, he is going to cook, let me guess, a chicken curry. And when he does that, he wants to spice it just the way he wants to spice it. So all I can do is say, is there any ingredients that you don't have? And he's like, "Nope, I need the green beans." So I ran to the store and got green beans. He already had potato. He had the onions and garlic for his flavor base. I don't eat chicken on the bone. So I know when he's making that, I'm not going to eat the chicken, but I will eat the potato. I will eat the green beans. I will eat the sauce on rice. So he makes it. I'll prepare the rice. I'll buy the green beans. He cooks the curry. And then I wash it up. I set the table, I wash it up, I pour the water, the drinks, whatever. Like I'm his assistant. So if I'm around and can do that, I will do that. And that's how we kind of really by the end of it, everything's cleaned up. There's just a few like our plates to put in the dishwasher. So I think we, after many years of being married, we sort of have it down. But, just how easily he'll just like think what he was in the mood for and he'll go to just like start it and he knows and I know what he kind of needs and what we don't have. So I kind of like that rhythm that's developed for us and how we kind of move together. He doesn't nearly help me like that. If I'm going to cook something, I usually have all my ingredients and I'm cleaning up as I go along. And so he's not really doing that for me, but he would. And like on the big nights, like if we're doing a big meal for friends who are coming over or something, then he does very much help me clean up and prep and the whole thing. So by an average night, I'll end up just kind of taking it over. Sometimes he needs it. And it'll help. It's interesting about freshness. We went to Turkey and we were in Istanbul and we were reading, this is back in the day when The Lonely Planet was really popular. We had a Lonely Planet Turkey book. And they said, go to the pier, one of these piers in Istanbul, and like ask the fisherman for a fresh fish sandwich. So we were like, okay, let's go get a fresh fish sandwich. This has got to be better than the fish sandwich at McDonald's. So we went down to the pier one afternoon and there's a fisherman there and the guy's like saying in his language, fresh fish sandwich, fresh fish sandwich. So we're like, okay. He pulls it out like there's bread, like baguette, and then this fish flapping in between the bread. And we're like, that's a little too fresh for us. You're right, all the world over. People are planning their meals. Fresh fish sandwich, fresh chicken. It's fun. The world is fun when it comes to food, don't you think, Cabs?
Muffy, I just wanted to come back on and say I knew we were kindred spirits. Um, you not liking to share food, and I don't like to share food. Yes, we are definitely kindred spirits. That was a funny story about the couple that you went out to dinner with. Kind of weird, too, but I'm sure you both had kind of shocked looks on your faces. Um, I also often feel like that when I go to the grocery store, feeling like, okay, I'm buying all this stuff and some people have nothing. And it definitely strikes me fairly often, to be quite honest, because even though I live in a town with a lot of memes, there are people in this town that don't have a lot of memes. Like, seriously, people would be surprised, but it's true. RK's chicken curry sounds amazing. A loves curry. Maybe someday RK can make chicken curry for A. That would be fabulous. Your fresh fish sandwich. Yeah, I don't think I could eat a live fish sandwich either. So, yeah, the world is funny when it comes to food. I agree, Muffy. So on that note, it's time to switch plates.
From Hab's well-intentioned meal plans that go sideways by Wednesday to Muffy's wing it and pray strategy, we're keeping it real with our meal planning. For more, please visit us on Instagram at Girls Who Gab with Habs and Muffy. Next time, tune in when we talk about what you can and what you can't do for friends. See you next time.